Is your business's IT infrastructure up to date and secure? Regular technology assessments are crucial for maintaining a competitive edge and ensuring your systems are running smoothly. In today's episode, we'll explore why businesses need regular IT evaluations. Welcome to The Prime Concern, a video series that helps you navigate critical IT decisions and use IT services to your advantage. I'm Justin Eckstein, and I bring about 2 decades of IT experience to the table, about half of which have been spent in the world of managed IT services. It seems that a lot of businesses out there don't see the need for regular network assessments and technology evaluations. Today, we're going to dive into why your average business should prioritize a technology assessment. So let's start talking about the importance of regular IT evaluations. I think where I can draw most of my experience from on this topic really is doing actual network assessments and technology assessments for small businesses. And what I've learned over the years is that a lot of the times when I'm talking to a business, they usually come to us because things aren't working well. And that usually means their environment is really outdated and honestly just hasn't been cared for. And I think in a lot of ways, I look at an environment and I see a customer environment where it looks like it just hasn't been updated in 5, 7, maybe 10 years in some cases. It's just been kind of sitting there. It's kind of been running, but then over time, they've noticed that things just aren't working as well as they should. And in some ways, it's because of maybe they haven't really worked with an IT provider, or maybe they haven't worked with a good IT provider, or just haven't really taken the time to care for their environment. And if you were to do at least a regular evaluation of your environment, I think it would be better. It'd help you understand, are there things that are being missed? Are there things that you should plan for? The budgeting conversation becomes a little easier. Those are all things that kind of go along with it. So when we actually do an assessment, one of the reasons why you'd want to do it would be to identify vulnerabilities and understand what's our risk and what are some things that could potentially go wrong in our environment. So we can find things like maybe outdated software, outdated hardware, actual cyber risks and misconfigurations, things like that. That can all be spotted and identified during a network assessment or an evaluation. We can really uncover things like that. In kind of the same vein, we can also make sure that we're compliant. We're actually doing the things that we thought we were doing. That's probably one of the other common things that are kind of uncovered is you might think that something's getting done. You might have maybe a policy that's written that says this is the way that we do it. And you might be partnering with somebody that says that they're doing whatever it might be. Maybe it's making sure that old user accounts are disabled on the network, for example, or that things are actually up to date and supportable. When a lot of the times what I've seen, it's just not the case. Things are getting missed or overlooked. Or we're making assumptions about things that are happening when they're really not happening. It's a very common thing. And if you have a third party go and look at it and really evaluate, or even just look at it yourself, sometimes you'll just uncover those kinds of things, and then you can get ahead of them before they become a real problem. Another thing that can be uncovered with a network assessment and why you'd want to really look at doing it would be maybe optimizing things like performance. You might over time notice that things are starting to slow down or just not working the way that they used to. And if you actually took the time to dive in and understand what's going on and how things are configured, you can oftentimes uncover things that just maybe aren't configured right or just aren't working like they used to. And then you can start to figure out, well, how can we make some changes to fix that? A great example of optimizing performance that I've actually recently uncovered in a network assessment that I did. I went to look at a business's server, and they said things just aren't working like they used to, and within 30 minutes I was able to uncover that they had their most critical database server. It was running on this little external hard drive, which is not how you would want to configure it. Usually, if you had an external hard drive in place, usually that might be somewhere you keep like a copy of files or like some backups to or something like that, or more temporary storage. But you wouldn't want to run a database server, which is usually your most powerful and needs the most speed out of all your servers. You wouldn't want to run it on a little single hard drive like that that's not backed up and those kinds of things. So within 30 minutes, I was able to discover that, and I mentioned it to them, like, this isn't the way that you would want to do this. This is probably, it's either set up intentionally wrong, or somebody just didn't know what they were doing, or they forgot about it when maybe they were doing some testing or something like that. And that little 30-minute amount of time there, ended up saving them hours of just slowness that they were experiencing every single day. So you're able to go in and get that fixed within a couple hours, moving some things around, and suddenly things are back to the way that you would expect them to be, and the way that they should be. So let's talk a little bit about some of the components of a really comprehensive technology assessment and what that can mean. I think probably one of the biggest things that I tend to come across is that a lot of small businesses seem like they don't even really know what they have a lot of the time. If you ask them to maybe provide some reports on maybe the systems or the computers, the software that they use, they struggle to do that. Usually it seems like they're pulling from memory in some cases, or they're starting to kind of count it out and figure out what they actually have. As a business, you want to really have this under wraps and understand that we can have reports for some of these things, we can have checklists, all that kind of stuff. It really doesn't take that much effort to put some of that together, and you can kind of have it all put together nicely. So that kind of leads into just having a basic hardware and software inventory. So when you perform a network assessment, one of the key components is really just getting a list of everything that you actually have that's in place, as far as all of the hardware pieces. Maybe that's all your network equipment, all of the servers, the workstations, and then all the software that's also in use in your organization. You can use a number of tools to kind of discern what's installed on all the computers and all the servers. And oftentimes I think what you'll discover is you have a lot of old stuff out there that you just didn't realize was still there. It might be slowing down computers or getting in the way, or maybe you're paying for some other pieces of software that you didn't even know were there. So it's a great way to uncover a lot of things. We can also better understand network security when we do a technology assessment. We can make sure that things are actually kind of configured the way that you expect them to be. A common thing that I come across is an outdated firewall, for example, and a lot of times the customer's not even aware of it, that maybe they have a firewall that just hasn't been replaced when it should have been. It's not providing the same protection that it used to, or maybe it's just misconfigured. So those are some of the things that you can also uncover that really don't have to take a lot of effort to discover either. And then probably one of the most important things that we can uncover with a technology assessment is where your data resides and how it's being managed. So that's usually a pretty eye-opening thing, I think, for a lot of businesses. At the end of the day, for a lot of businesses, your data is your business. And if you don't know where it is or how much of it you have, where it's getting stored, you don't really know how to protect it. And if you don't know how to protect your data, you really don't know how to protect your business at the end of the day. So a technology assessment can help uncover where things are stored, how much of it is there, who has access to it, and then you can start to get a better understanding of how you can control that, maybe reduce your footprint in a lot of ways, which can help reduce cost and also reduce risk. One thing that I tend to come across when I do a technology assessment is we discover a lot of what we call shadow IT. And what shadow IT is really it's technology that kind of pops up, and a lot of times this is software that just kind of pops up within your business without you even knowing about it, or maybe your IT department doesn't know about it, your owners don't know about it, your managers don't know about it, but your employees, they find ways to make things work. And that can be, maybe they sign up for some other program that because they didn't like the one that you provided them, or it just didn't do what they needed, so they went and downloaded some other program to store files or manipulate files, or those kinds of things. And what you'll quickly realize is that you have all this other software out there that you didn't know about, and suddenly your data is in places that you didn't know about. And that could mean that maybe it's not getting backed up, or it's not protected, or you've opened up other doors for maybe an attacker to come into your network and actually do harm to your business. So doing a real full-scale technology assessment can help uncover things like that and get ahead of them before they become a real problem. So let's also dive into some of the real benefits at the end of the day of doing an IT evaluation for your business. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is that a technology assessment doesn't have to be expensive. In some cases, they can actually be offered for free. Some managed IT providers, for example, will do a technology assessment for free just as part of doing like their bid process, right? So if you're out looking for, let's say, a new managed IT provider, they might actually do a full-fledged technology assessment and provide you some recommendations and reports as part of their proposal process, because a lot of times they need that information in order to provide an accurate quote for you anyway. So they can also provide you a lot of information along the way and on things that just don't look right and things that you should think about. But there are also paid assessments out there too that can provide additional value and maybe more in-depth findings as well. So one of the benefits of doing a technology assessment, as I touched on earlier, would just be general cost savings. So this can mean a lot of different things, but it might mean that maybe you're purchasing software that you don't need. Maybe you have more license counts than you need. Maybe you're paying for more devices than you need. A great example of this that I came across was a nonprofit that, they had about 60 employees, but they had over 100 computers. And this was because a lot of their employees preferred having a desktop in the office, but then they also wanted to work from home, and so they also had a laptop. And it was really just a matter of doing some education and helping them understand that they can really get away with just the laptop and a docking station, and helping them understand how that would work for them within their business model. And they weren't really aware of that, but then they also nobody was really keeping track of how many computers they had. They just kind of assumed it was about one for every employee. They didn't realize how many employees actually had 2 computers. Which it ended up being most of their staff. They fixed that since then, but that saved them tens of thousands of dollars by just getting that under control and having a technology assessment that helped them discover that kind of thing. Another benefit of doing a technology assessment is that it can just help you improve the decision making within your business, especially when it comes to technology, but also just your business in general, if you think about it. So when you have a technology assessment, you'll really understand everything that you've got, right? So all of your hardware, all of your software, how it's all kind of working together, and whether or not it's secure, can kind of help you inform yourself in some of the decisions that you're going to make with your business itself. That can be with understanding maybe the technology budget over the next few years. Are there things that you need to plan on replacing, or maybe there's some things that can wait. If things are working well and they're not that old, that can help you maybe reallocate some dollars somewhere else, maybe make a better decision for your business, and putting that money and investing it somewhere else that makes more sense for you. And one other really critical piece to doing a technology assessment, in my opinion, is that it can really help you to enhance the security of your business. As I've kind of mentioned, probably one of the biggest things that we uncover during a technology assessment are just a lot of misconfigurations and old hardware, old software, things that aren't patched or up to date. You've got accounts enabled for an end user that hasn't worked for your company in 10 years. I've seen that time and time again. There's just all these accounts, and those kinds of things can be just taken advantage of so easily, because if an attacker, for example, in some cases, can just have all day to guess the password of a user account that's not in use by somebody else, because nobody's getting inconvenienced because their account's not getting locked out because that employee doesn't work there anymore. But eventually they'll get it right, and then they'll get into your environment, and if you have things that are out of date and not maintained well, it's just a treasure trove for an attacker at the end of the day. So by doing a technology assessment, you can benefit your business by understanding where all those weak spots are, getting them under wraps, and fixing all those things before they really get beaten down by an attacker. The probably one thing that I think is critical to understand is that when you do a technology assessment, as I mentioned, some IT providers will do a technology assessment of some form as maybe part of their quoting process. I think the benefit really at the end of the day to a business is that even if you end up partnering with somebody else, if somebody does a really thorough job on a technology assessment for you, at the end of the day, at least you're informed. That's usually I just feel better myself about it when I personally do a technology assessment for a business, even if they don't partner with us and they choose to go some other route, maybe because somebody else was cheaper or they just felt more comfortable, whatever that reason may be. I personally just feel better knowing that I at least provided them information and helped educate them on their business, because I don't want to see anybody become attacked or have a major business outage or something like that. I'd rather them be successful, and maybe they can be a customer down the road, right? Because they saw that we did such a good job on our technology assessment. They might want to work with us later because we were transparent, we provided information, we helped them regardless. Regular technology assessments are not just a good practice, they are essential for the health and success of your business. By identifying vulnerabilities, ensuring compliance, and optimizing performance, you can stay ahead of the competition and protect your valuable assets. Thanks for watching today's video. If you would like to learn more, click the link in the description.